Can you hear me now? There we go. Ooh, what's up, Philadelphia sports fans? Welcome to the War Room. We are War Room Philly. I am Anthony Pinto. First try. So yeah, here we are. Kicking it in the lounge. I got the game on in the background today. If that feels distracting, chat, tell me. I'll turn it off. But I like because when I stare into your soul, I can kind of see the game in the background a bit. So here we are. We're doing it. Man, where to start? So first and foremost, Greg Hall was supposed to be joining us. Shout out to Schmom Schmanst, who has left me here without a solo. Or who's left me here without a co-host, who has left me here solo. So Greg was going to take over most of the Flyers content. That's how we were going to start the show. But with that, I'll give you my thoughts. They're less in-depth, but in particular, so we can talk about the first round, right? Because I did research on one player, and one player only when it came to this draft. As many of you long-timers may or may not know, I've been down, to put it lightly, on the Flyers. But Michkov, there was one player I did research on this draft, and it was Michkov. Because of the upside. And the upside's there. But here's what I said to Greg yesterday, and he got mad about it. But I said, I'm not... Murph, you were there. You saw it. He got mad at both of us. I think that for Flyers fans like Murph and me, let's go like this, because I know, Murph, you're there. I see you in chat, by the way. What up, Mitch? I see you in there too. Here's what I'll say, and I'll talk about the player. I'll get into that. But the argument that I was prepared to have with Greg tonight was over the fact that I cannot and will not get excited about the Philadelphia Flyers until they prove I have to. Through time and time and time again, I have came up here and died on that cross. And it has just happened too many times. In 3 years, the Sixers might be there as well. We'll give them a shot. We'll get there. Let's wait. But again, going back to Michkov. Now, I said what I said as far as the Flyers organization. I cannot and will not get excited about the Flyers until it's proven necessary. That being said, this is a good pick. This is a good pick. And to echo, Mitch throws me up at alley-oop and I'm going to slam it down. To echo your sentence, the sentiments, the Flyers are about 3-4 years from excitement. That's another thing that makes this pick better. This is a Sam Hinkie Euro stash. This is a perfect pick for what the Flyers need now, because the Flyers need to suck next year. And probably the year after. And they need to start acquiring picks. In my opinion, building the franchise around Carter Hart. We will see what the future holds for Carter Hart. But if there's one player on this team that I deemed untouchable, it's Carter Hart. Because in my opinion, he's for a couple reasons. One, he's a game changer. Two, he's a goaltender, the most important position in sports outside of a quarterback in the NFL. Three, goaltenders have much longer shelf lives than maybe any other position in sports. I don't know why my voice just went up 3 octaves. I just hit my second puberty. Looks like it's 3-1. Was that a home run? I saw people crossing the plate. Was that a Bryce bomb? Was that a two-run homer for Bryce? Oh, no, there's people on. Single. Okay. Oh, he's on. Okay, I see it now. 2-out single. We love it. But getting back to this Flyers pick, because I got to give the Flyers some talk while they're in the forefronts of our mind. And again, I'll have more. We'll get some co-hosts on. Greg was ready to go tonight, but Schmom Schmast shit the bed on him, and he doesn't have internet until 10. So again, we'll get more in depth about all of the picks. But as far as tonight goes, Chat, I'm being honest with you. All I can talk on is Michkov. And I saw something about Peralt and the second first round pick, and all I can say is you're probably right, because I'll just default to more than me about hockey right now. I'm not like, that's as best as I can say. I watched the playoffs. I watched a lot of hockey in the playoffs, more in the first and second rounds maybe than the latter stages, but I was there and watching a lot of hockey, and it's just that the Flyers have beaten me down to, much like if, for instance, Joe Heston, you've been here forever. Murphy, you've been my friend forever. You guys probably remember how. Oh, and by the way, what up, Kevin Christian in chat? Oh, I forgot to even ask. But if you want to hop on, we can make that happen. Hard to suck enough to get top 5 picks when you have an elite goalie. That's my only concern. So that's the best argument I've heard. Greg has been fighting me on this, and that's the best argument I've heard to the Hart thing. Again, though, I would say, well, then play him less. I said play him less, maybe. But that's a valid point. I don't have, at the current time, I do not have a retort smart enough to counter that. How is it going to work? 3 years signed in Russia? Go out there, play 3 years, we'll suck, we'll continue to acquire talent, and then when we're ready to finally win in 3 years, he goes over and we have the most talented Russian prospect since Alex Ovechkin. This was a Sam Hinkie move. This was, and this is props to Daniel Briere. Now, I'll get excited when I need to, but again, this was a high IQ pick. This was knowing where your team is, knowing that we need difference makers. We're going to just go for people that have a ceiling above the ceiling, and he'll be here when we're ready. And we're not going to be ready for that long. Or that, we're not going to be ready for the time that he's going to stay in Russia. It's Dario Saric, but we needed to hit harder than Saric. We needed to hit harder than Furkan. But you're right. In a sense, I'm sorry. I didn't even see the end of that because it was popped down on my computer. So yeah, I completely agree then. Sam Hinkie died. Well, we never got to see the fruits of that labor because the NBA tampered with the Sixers. But stop! I keep hearing Sam Hinkie. He was the best available player, and we were not. Okay, that's again, Murph. I'm gonna keep saying Sam Hinkie. But you're right. He kind of was the best player available. But again, Flyers in the past, Flyers would have said, yeah, but we're going to win now. We're going to win now. We're going to win now. So we have to acquire a player that can help us win now. We got to make the 8th seed. But you're right. Maybe it's not as high IQ as I should have. But we've seen, here's the thing, maybe it's not the obvious pick, but we've seen the Flyers fuck this up in the past. And to Joe, you're saying the Flyers are doing this the right way. Look, again, like, I will echo, and I agree, right now it looks decent, but why am I not excited, right? Why am I not excited? I'm not excited because I felt this way when Ron Hextall was doing it too, right? And what happened? Ownership interfered. And we went back to square one. So we'll see. But for now, so far, so good. But I refuse to be excited. But I will speak objectively. And objectively, this was the right move. So yeah. Speaking of right, it was the obvious pick. Yet 5 other GMs didn't make the pick. Valid point from Kevin. I agree it's the right thing, just not betting that everything will work out until then. And Murph, again, that I'm just as, if not more, jaded than you as a Flyers fan. So I agree with that. And that's why I cannot and will not get excited about the Flyers until I see why I have to. And then when that time comes, I'll give my best sales pitch. Just like, when I show up to God, I'll just go, all right, well, look. So I didn't believe in you all these years. But that being said, I was still a pretty good person. I didn't wrong many people. Like, I just shoot the shit and see if he's like, all right, word, you can come on in. If not, I'll be like, look, just stick me in the quiet part of hell, because I just need some quiet. Bonk was too safe. I want a Peralt or the Colorado pick. I almost wore my Colorado shirt today, but then I decided I will bust out the James Harden one last time while it's still in meta. And speaking of, but speaking of, let's start. Did you feel about that way about Embiid? Embiid. What was that about? Yeah, I don't know what that, but you're talking to Murph anyway, so he can answer. Moving on though, let's kind of, by all means, if you guys have any other Sixers, if you have any other Flyers comments, get them on in. We're gonna smoothly transition. Since I'm solo, we're gonna keep it around 35 minutes tonight, give or take. But we'll see. You guys know I've already talked. I thought I talked 10 minutes for the Flyers. It's been 17 minutes into the show, and I didn't even talk any nonsense. So. Aren't we evolving, chat? Sometimes you gotta take a risk. Yeah. But yeah, let's get into the Sixers now, because there was a Woj bomb shell dropped on Philadelphia just hours ago. I started reading. I got really excited. James Harden for 1 year? Fuck yeah. Then I read the bottom. James Harden has likely played his last game in Philadelphia. And then I heard everyone else go, fuck yeah. And me and maybe a collective few Sixers fans all kind of went sad mode. But here's what I'll say. Here's my last pitch for James Harden. One last pitch, and then we'll move it forward. I have a list here of potentials, and there's only one on this list that I truly, truly, truly believe is better than Harden, and we'll get to that. So with that, for the people who want Harden to go, I would just say, you have to be careful for what you're wishing for. I don't know what the Sixers will acquire for him. I wrote down some of my own thoughts. Some of them are crazy. Some of them are risky. None of them are smart. None of them are smart, chat. I stand by that. They're all stupid. You know why? The smart move is to keep James Harden. And I see the maxis. And here, Murph, I think... Oh, no, that wasn't Murph that said it. The thing about Maxey is, and here's the one thing about trading James Harden that is intriguing. I am intrigued at the thought of making Tyrese Maxey a point guard and surrounding Joel Embiid with shooters. That being said, going off the information... I just saw the Tobias Harris cookie crumble comment. Stop it. That being said, going off of the James Harden trade, my list goes as follows. My number one, and it's a little possible if some magic happens, Dame Lillard. It's a win-win for me because then I still get to root for Harden in Oregon, in Portland, because he would have brought us Dame. That is a long, long, long shot. We were told that teams like the Knicks or the Clippers could be involved. So I went down and I looked at players on their rosters. Now, depending on how crazy the Clippers want to get, I don't really see these possibles, but they're names, and these would be names that would get you excited, I would at least imagine. But my first one that I wrote down, especially with his ties to Nick Nurse, Kawhi Leonard. A trade for potentially Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. You would have to tack on some salary, so you could probably even throw in Furkan Korkmaz, and that would probably balance it out. I don't have the Sixers salaries, but if Harden's making 37, Korkmaz is going to make about 5, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. It actually works out perfectly. You trade Furkan and you trade James Harden and you get back Kawhi Leonard. Now again, to your point, Joe, who in the right mind would do Dame for Harden? That's why I said you need a little bit of magic. And that little bit of magic would have to be Dame asking to come to Philly. This is why I don't, for the record, if you're saying all these names don't make sense, this is why I want James Harden. Remember, I said none of these names are smart. You know what you tuned into. You know this. You don't come here to get smart things. You know that. I want Maxey to get the keys. So again, Maxey getting the keys. If you get Kawhi in here, Kawhi plays, the point forward. So you could kind of have him. You could have Kawhi in the 3 or 4. So you would have Maxey. You would have a 2 to be named later. You would have your 2 would probably come because you trade Tobias Harris. So we'll get into that road, that conversation at a different time during this show. Your 2 would be that. Then you'd have your 3 and 4 be Tucker it would be Kawhi and Tucker and Embiid. But the thing about Harden is you kind of want a max player back. I'd rather have one max player back because you want that on your cap. Because if you just let Harden go, then you got nothing. Then you got about $10 million to spend. Whereas if you keep Harden, you have that $37 million. Because that slot is there because of Ben Simmons. And you gave Ben Simmons a max, and now you have a max contract. The next spot that will be a max contract will eventually probably be Maxey. But right now, your 3 maxes are Embiid, Toby, and James Harden. And again, Kawhi hasn't played a lot of games in the last since he's left Nick Nurse. Neither has my next candidate, Paul George. Again, for everyone that just kept saying, this is why I never wanted to get rid of James Harden, because I kept saying, well, who's going to come back? Who are you giving me back? And Joe, to your point, you at least suggested Kyrie, which I disagree with for so many levels, but that's the best suggestion I've heard. He was just, you can't bring him back. Well, fucking give me something. Give me a solution. I can't bring him back. Or, give me a solution. Because these are my solutions. And again, none of them are smart. Third one is Paul George, we just mentioned. Again, same thing. Just hasn't really been there on the court as of late. So you're taking a huge risk. My next one is a total wild card, and he could maybe even potentially be involved in the Tobias Harris trade rumors, but Zach LaVine. If for whatever reason the Bulls want to get out of that contract, you bring that on, and you trade, one of those two. But Zach LaVine would really fit on this team. This is one that, again, I don't think it's likely, but it's probably more likely than Dame, if I'm being honest with myself. But Zach LaVine would fit really well because he's a tall 2. You could play him at the 3. But if you're going to move Maxey to the 1, again, that to me, outside of keeping Harden, Maxey to the 1 has still been kind of the best solution that I can realistically find. That being said, Zach LaVine, a lineup with Maxey, LaVine, hell, you can even keep Cookie Monster, Toby in there. If you keep Toby, PJ, and Embiid, that's a good mixture of both length, athleticism, and shooters. What's my hair doing right now? There we go. Again, I want Toby to move. My whole solution this whole offseason was keep Harden, trade Toby. I still would love Toby to be moved even in this scenario where Harden's going too. Tobias isn't trash, he's just not a max player. But again, so for why I wanted to get rid of Tobias and keep James Harden was just, I just felt like you can't run it back. Something had to change. Now, if it's Harden that changes and you work around it and then maybe mid-season you trade Harris, then it is what it is. So you say he's a good third option, but he's been acting as a fourth option. I need him to be a third option. But he seems to be fine with taking the back seat to even guys like Maxey. And again, look at Harris's numbers, the same games that everybody else wants to trash Embiid and Harden for. Rightfully so. But Harris was right there with them, disappearing. My next trade possibility for James Harden, since the New York Knicks were involved. Chat, this one is purely a fanboy suggestion, but the cap adds up. Bring back 2 Villanova Wildcats, Jalen Brunson, and Josh Hart. Their 2 contracts together add up to $37 million, believe it or not. Here's my only thing about that. As much as I love that move, they're not shooters. Josh Hart is more of a defensive 2. So you would still have to go out and maybe get a Curry, but that would be bench. That would be a bench piece. Then my other concern would be, well, then Maxey isn't going to run it. Maxey will stay at the 2, which he's been adequate at. You get Jalen Brunson to come in here, who's a dog. And you get a little bit of hunger on this team. But that's not surrounding Embiid with shooters. So I don't know that that's the ideal prototype. But I'm a fan of those guys, so I wrote it down for content. Don't see why the Knicks would trade Brunson. Because, so, I agree, but because they think that they could win with Harden. Or because they're the Knicks and they need a superstar or something. The Knicks make bad moves. That's my biggest thing that I could say. But, like, if the Knicks are involved, like, real talk, if the Knicks are involved, though, chat, like, we're looking at their roster. Who like, RJ Barrett? Evan Fournier? Like, who are we getting? Isaiah, like, I don't want these guys. Obviously, they're not going to give Randall, nor do I want them. Unless we're trading Toby somehow, too. You know, you say give me Randall, but then Toby has to move. Because then you have 3 4s on this team. that all are making way too much money. Because PJ Tucker's not going anywhere. His, $15 million or whatever? That's not going anywhere. So, while Randall would be a good fit, then you have to move Harris, which I'm fine with. For the record, I'm fine with that. But you need to know, like, you have to do both of these moves at the same time so that you're not kind of backed into a corner and a team then, like, has you pinned against the wall and you give Harris up for cookie crumbles. I'd keep Harden 2 more years. This team will be doomed. If they keep Harden 2 more years, this team will be doomed. Go 1 more with the option. Be happy. Houston don't want him. Yeah, I think if they went 3-4 years, they'd be in a bad spot. Harden for another 2 years is fine because that would mean next year, so you would know what you're getting. And then worst case, if his legs are out from under him, then you got next year, and then you might even be able to trade a 1-year deal just because, again, teams value having that max slot. So, yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I'm still, again, chat, I know what the report said today. I'm still hoping. Remember Darius Slay and we were like, oh, he's gone. And then was it like a night later or even that night he was back? I'm still kind of hoping for that. Chris Paul's not overrated. He's just washed at this point. He's been on some bad teams. I mean, yeah, I guess he's never won anything. Okay. I guess if that's your only critique for if that's your only critique for greatness, then that's fine. I put championships up there a lot. Can we all Joe, thank you. Joe Heston. Thank you. I would have missed this. Yes. The first victory of the year, I actually was going to... if I did a show that week, that was going to be my spiel. So far, the biggest victory of the offseason for the Sixers is that we didn't get Bradley Beal. What is that, 4 more years on his contract? Hell nah. That would be a contract worse than Tobias Harris. That would be a contract worse than Ben Simmons. No. Maybe not worse than Ben Simmons, although Ben Simmons got you Harden. But right now, think about what that contract feels to the Nets and their organization. But yeah, so I guess with that, we're at 35 minutes. We can talk a little bit of Phillies. Get your final thoughts in. Final thoughts in for the Sixers. Final thoughts in for any of the Flyers as well. And we can kind of talk a little bit of Phillies and any other final thoughts in general, too. We'll kind of just wrap this show up in a little bit. But Ben Simmons absolutely put this team behind the 8 ball. Yeah. But again, he also got you James Harden. And I would imagine that had Daryl Morey equipped James Harden and Joel Embiid with a bench and an adequate team, which we've seen since last trade deadline that there wasn't this, that they were missing pieces, and they never went out there and sought after the said correct pieces. They got guys like, DeAnthony Melton was a help, but like everyone else this offseason was a bust. Daniel House Jr. showed up a little bit at the end, but guess what? We're stuck with him again next year. Yeah, I don't know that he's the most overrated, but he's definitely up there. His best and only move as the Sixers GM that you could really give him a tip to was acquiring James Harden. Outside of that, he has done dog shit. He signed Furkan Korkmaz to a 3-year deal. As soon as he got here, that was one of his first moves, and I knew we were in for trouble. But yeah, this is his make or break offseason. This is put up or shut up. I'm tired of hearing about how savvy he is. I want to fucking see it. Because he and Elton Brand should have been fired along with Doc Rivers this offseason. I hope I've made that point clear as many times as possible, but I will continue to say it until I have to. I just absolutely will. So yeah, as far as the Phillies, I saw something about the Paul Goldschmidt earlier. I did see that in chat. I stapled it in the back. I think that was you, Dad, that said that. I would love to get Paul Goldschmidt. I am vehemently against Bryce Harper at first base. I think it holds this team up. I think it takes us away from what we ultimately really need, which is a first baseman on this roster. I think Cody Clemens, Derek Hall, these guys have done just fine, but they're not Rhys Hoskins. And at the end of the day, you kind of need that sort of production. I'm a big Derek Hall fan. I've been since last year. Does he deserve a shot? I would say yes. I would just also say I think Cody Clemens deserves to stay on this team as well. And how many of the same player do you want on your roster, I guess? So it's tough. And maybe that's where Dombrowski, I think Cody Clemens, they might be boosting up his trade value right now, question mark. But yeah, I mean, give Hall. Give Hall a shot. I mean, they kind of did give him a shot. Again, it's not that. It's just that it's not that. He hasn't provided more. Cody Clemens can play multiple positions. He's playing a hell of a first base defensively. It's not anything that Derek Hall isn't doing. It's just what Cody Clemens is. And again, I think that they could be boosting up Cody. I think Cody Clemens has more value on the open market than Derek Hall. So what I think they could be doing right now is boosting up Clemens' value. Looking to trade him and then bringing up Derek Hall. I think that's personally, I think that's the smartest option. But I'm a Hall fan. I want him back up here too. The big reason why I would say you want a guy like Hall on the team and on your bench is because he provides pop, and that's something that Clemens can't do. Clemens provides, much better defense. But I personally, my philosophy, I would, especially off the bench, I would rather have the pop. So I'm with you on the Derek Hall thing. I'm telling you why I think the Phillies haven't done it. But I totally agree. I would say he's a better player than Cody Clemens. I just do. So we'll see. We certainly shall see. As far as the Cody Clemens things go. But yeah, with this Phillies team, I think that right now they're in a position where you got to go out. You got to probably find a starter. You got to find a pitcher of some sort. I think this bullpen is held up just fine. I think right now your biggest concern is finding another starter. And not only a starter that you can, think Noah Syndergaard, but someone that you can feel a little bit more confident than Syndergaard in the playoffs. Yeah, you can't do Painter. Anybody really outside of Painter is kind of on the table, though, for me. I don't... I'd have to, that's a guy, like, if we had Greg on tonight, he would probably have a little bit better in-depth of, like, an answer as far as Painter goes. Or not Painter, as far as the farm goes. And maybe who and who isn't untouchable. But, yeah, Goldschmidt, that's the thing about Goldschmidt. But then there's guys like... what the hell's his name? What's CJ Gold? No, CJ Crone. CJ Crone. Like, he's out there. He probably costs a little less. The guy from Arizona. I'm forgetting. The names are escaping me right now, chat. I've been in basketball name mode, and now my brain's crisscrossed. Walker, yeah. Christian, thank you, Joe. Yes. Christian, you might not be adding necessarily the pop, but you're getting a Gold Glover. The thing about Schwarber batting DH is then Harper's not doing that. And I'm fine with Harper playing DH until he is ready to play the outfield. I'm not really a big fan of this. In fact, I'm not a fan at all of Bryce playing first base. I'd rather wait a little longer and get him in the outfield. Now, doctors know more than me. If doctors are saying he can't play the outfield this year, then maybe I got to consider it. But I'm still not doing that at the cost of stopping my team from looking for a first baseman. Would I shop Aaron Nola? No. Am I disappointed with Nola? Yeah. But you're not going to get anything back for Nola. Unless it's like a Goldschmidt thing, but I don't see the Cardinals being interested in that. And outside of that, I don't see where you would get... If your goal is to win the World Series, I don't see what you would get back because it takes two teams. So if a team is if a team's acquiring Nola, right, that means they want to win. So what are they going to give you? Because they're trying to win too. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to defend Aaron Nola by any means. But I'm just looking at this and how do I... It's just like why I go back with James Harden. How do I get to the championship? What increases my odds the best? All right, well, maybe Harden isn't Dame Lillard, but I can't get that. But I can and do have James Harden. And that's better than the $10 million that I would have to replace him, right? So it's like the same with Nola. It's like, okay, well... maybe I'm getting a couple prospects back, but how does that help me win a championship this year? Again, I know why you're saying it, Joe, but it's because it's his last year. The only teams that want him, right, are teams that are winning. And we want to win as well. So I'm not saying that you got to re-sign him, although I still think that's the right move. But I am saying that I would rather ride it out, not get anything for him, but maybe make a World Series or win it again because he's still here. So I'm not defending if you're sick of Nola, that's fine. I'm not defending it. You want to win a World Series this year, right? That's the goal as far as this team goes. So, unfortunately, you just got to ride it out one more year. If you don't want them back, that's your prerogative. We'll get to that, later on. But now you don't build for next year when you have guys in their prime that you got to try to win now. You don't take an intentional step back in the middle of a season with expectations. You just don't. And especially when you need pitching. Like, you're doing a disservice to Wheeler. You're doing a disservice to everyone by taking Nola off this team. You're doing a disservice, maybe more to your bullpen, actually, because then he's at least not eating up those innings. Like, say what you want, he eats up innings. And that helps a team through 162 games. You could say they're not winning anything with Nola, but guess what? They're not winning anything by just trading him either. So... but yeah, guys, it has been a fun one. We're going to continue to kind of monitor this trade deadline situation as July heats up. That'll be the big one. I appreciate you guys I saw the view count was incredible throughout this show. Given the fact that I'd taken a few weeks off, I appreciate that. It's been a busy stretch for both all of my co-hosts and I. So I appreciate you guys kind of giving me a little bit of time to bounce back mentally, to get back on the mic. So, it was definitely a fun one. I appreciate it. Without Ranger, we'd be Rangers like low key your ace right now. Those things will balance out. Give it time. It's a long season. I tend to think both Wheeler and Nola will bounce back. I have much, much more faith in Wheeler. much more faith in Wheeler. Again, though, I'm not dismissing the Nola hate. I'm not. I promise you. I hear your concerns. It's just the goal this year is to win the World Series. Trading Aaron Nola for prospects does not help that. That's fine. Your final thought is you can't wait for Nola to be gone. That'll be right after the World Series parade at the end of this year. It'll be just like Pat Burrell. We'll ride him right down the road. Salute. So similar to Harden, you're better off having them if you want to win. Again, it's just a matter of pieces and puzzle. Like it's almost like I guess if I call it a math equation, then I'm getting too close to analytics, huh? Oh. With the Clydesdales, baby. Aaron Nola on the Clydesdales. Don't compare a Hall of Famer. Ooh, is that... Joe just stuck up for Harden. That's how much he hates... That's how much he hates Nola right now. Hey, Hall of... James Harden is a Hall of Famer. You damn straight on that. That being said, look, again, just my final thoughts with all this. Because, again, I've pitched Harden a bunch of times. If you're not going with Harden, then I'm intrigued at the thought of Maxey and shooters. I just don't know what shooter you get back for James Harden. It'll be interesting to see, guys. But it has been a fun one. Thank you guys all for tuning in, both live and on demand. And if you haven't yet, make sure you follow us at War Room Philly. You can @ War Room Philly on YouTube, and you'll get right on over. Subscribe to us. It's free to subscribe there. But yeah, make sure you guys turn notifications on for all of the platforms. Follow us, facebook.com/War Room Philly. War Room Philly on all your platforms. Any other final thoughts, John? Yeah, looks good. So with that, let's put a bow on this pretty little show. I'm Anthony Pinto, and we are out of here.